Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, when or wherever you are. Hello, welcome back to another video and welcome back to my channel. You're probably here because you saw the title and the thumbnail. Yes, today is Thursday, so I thought I would do a throwback Thursday. However, this video will be going up on Sunday because that's when I happen to upload. I know I said in one of my previous videos I was going to upload whenever I do, but I'm going to continue to upload on Sunday because that's just what I've been doing. But anyway, before we get into the juicy part, I do want to say I apologize about my previous video. I was dealing with that time of the month. No, it wasn't my first time, and it's not my last, which I'm hoping I have my last period soon because I'm just done dealing with it, but until then, I'm just gonna have to hang in there. Anyways, it was around this time of year when I started. School was just about to let out for the summer, and that's a fun way to start your summer, is starting your first period. Now, at the time, I knew what a period was, but I didn't know when I was going to start, I just have to let it happen when it happens. I remember having discussions with my mom about it, and I remember watching videos about it at school, and I was like, no, that's crazy. But I kind of knew what it was, but I didn't really understand the concept of it. You know what I mean? But the scariest thing of it was the unknown. So anyway, I was barely 13, and that's typically about the time you start your period. But some girls start their period younger than that, and I didn't think I was going to start till I was like 13 or 14, but nope, I was 12 going on 13 at the time. Now, I am pushing 40, and I still remember it like it happened yesterday. My mom wasn't around at the time, which really sucked. I really wish she was. I remember telling her over the phone, and, I think if she was there, it wouldn't have been as scary. But at the time, I was dealing with my stepmom. I don't even want to get into her. Right now, she's not a part of my life, but it was still nice to have someone who has been there, done that, and understood what was happening with me. So, about a week before I started, I fell ill, and it was like I had the flu, and I was sick for a week. I even missed school. That's how sick I was, and I normally didn't miss school unless I was really sick, and there were some mornings where I just could not even get out of bed. Yeah, that's how sick I was. And I remember going to the doctor, and they said, oh, you have the flu, or it's just a cold. Little did I know that wasn't the case. I was getting ready to start, and that's what my body happened to be doing at the time. So anyway, I woke up one morning feeling like absolute crap. And I was already feeling like crap the week before. And on top of that, I was in a horrible mood, and I was dealing with stomach pains all day. And I thought it was like a stomach bug because it felt like I felt like I was going to throw up, or possibly diarrhea, or maybe both. But that wasn't the case. I mean, let me tell you, I was in a shitty mood that day. And my stupid stepmom at the time kept griping at me, quit being such a whiny gut, nah. Which, we're going to call her Jenny, because I'm not even going to mention her real name, out of respect, and she's not a part of my life anymore, and, she was never helpful. And during this time of the month, she was probably trying to help, or at least she thought she did, but honestly, she really wasn't. I would have rather had my mom. Anyways, now let's get back to the story. I remember that evening we were playing in the water, and I remember changing my clothes, and I see blood in my panties, and I was wearing white shorts on top of that. And I was like, what the heck? And I thought I had an accident in my pants because it was kind of a brown color, and I thought it was like diarrhea. I know it sounds kind of gross, but that's what I thought. I was like, oh, I just shit myself. And I didn't know what it was. And then a few minutes later, my dad comes up to me and says, Kira, come here. I need to talk to you. I was like, fuck. I thought I was in trouble. I really was. And I'm really bad about thinking that. I'm always paranoid that someone's getting on to me or I'm in trouble. But no, that wasn't the case. He pulls me to another room and says, Kira, Jenny and I just saw a pair of your panties. Is there any blood down there? And I was like, blood in my panties? I was in shock. I did not know what was going on with me. I was completely speechless. And my dad asked me, Kira, are you on your period? And I was like, I don't know. And I started bawling my eyes out, and Jenny walks in. It's like, Kira, it's okay. I got my period at this age too. You don't have to be scared. It happens. And then I go to the bathroom, and sure enough, they were right. But that is why I felt sick for like a week and a half, because I was getting ready to start. So if you have children around that age, especially when they're girls, if they start feeling ill, just keep an eye on them, and that could be it, you know? Not to mention, we were going to Six Flags the next day. Yeah. That sucked. And Six Flags, I was looking forward to it, but then again, I wasn't, if that makes any sense. And with summer being around the corner at the time, it was hot as heck. And since I was on my period, I couldn't ride any of the water rides. No. And the only ride I could ride without worrying about anytime somebody went on a water ride, I would go on the Conquistador, and that was pretty much my go-to ride for the day. And if I wasn't riding the Conquistador, I was riding the roller coasters. And let me tell you, that was so not fun. I kept having accidents, and I felt really awkward, and I remember using pads. Okay, I don't even use pads anymore. I haven't used a pad in like 5 or 6 years, maybe longer than that. Nowadays, I use a menstrual cup with period underwear, and occasionally I'll use a liner. And every once in a blue moon, I'll use tampons. It just depends on what I'm doing. So, yeah. Anyways, I felt so awkward. And not to mention, I felt like the pad was up in a weird place. I felt like I was wearing a diaper. Not to mention, that was horrible. And it was uncomfortable. All of the things that came with that, it sucked. And I stayed home from school for almost a whole week because of that. I didn't really know what was going on, and I didn't quite understand the whole concept of it. And I remember going to school while I was still on it, but luckily school was just about to be out in a couple of days. And I remember going to the nurse's office, and I got in trouble for something that I don't remember what I got in trouble for. I was just, well, I wasn't really in trouble, but Jenny walks in and goes, "You're not in trouble yet, but you're headed there, girl." And I was like, "Excuse me? You don't know what kind of day I'm having." And again, I was in a horrible mood, just like I was in my previous video. And I was so mad at her because she came in there yelling at me. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Can I not be emotional? Give me some chocolate, you know? I said to Jenny, "I wish my mom was here. Not you." I was being very blunt and honest. Which, Jenny, if you're watching, you know who you are, but you get the idea. But there's a reason why you're not in my life anymore. No offense. That was the worst. And I think my period was about a week long. I don't remember, but I was barely coming off. And you see, at the time, I was living in Dallas. And if you live in Dallas, you know how hot the summer heat can be. So I'm hoping and praying. Well, I think nowadays, if I were to go to Six Flags while on my period, I would be okay because I'm older and I understand what's happening and I can tolerate it and deal with it more because I'm at that age where it doesn't bother me. I just don't like how it makes me feel sometimes. And that's where chocolate and Midol and caffeine helps with all of that. You see? Anyway, when I went to see Marilyn Manson in concert, I was on my period. And I was all paranoid that he was gonna know, but he didn't. And even if I was on my period again, going to see Marilyn Manson in concert, it wouldn't have been a big deal because, for one, I'm not going to be the only one on my period, and two, I'm going to be so far from Manson, it's not like he could see it or smell it, you know? Anyways, that's kind of the whole thing, but going to Six Flags on your period, especially when it's your first rodeo, that sucked. And I remember when I was 16, we went to Six Flags, and guess what? I was on my period again. And at the time, do you remember the roller coaster called the Titan? I don't know if it's called that anymore, but that's what it was called at the time. I remember riding that thing. Okay. And I remember the first drop of that roller coaster, I felt blood gushing out of my body. I felt the big whoosh. And I had an accident. It was so embarrassing. And I was miserable. I couldn't go swimming as bad as I wanted to, especially as hot as it was. You know, it seemed like my period always come at the inconvenient time, and that's why I chose to take care of myself the way that I do nowadays. But anyway, I think that's going to be it for this video because it's already over 13 minutes long. So yeah, but I hope you enjoyed this sitting and chatting video. So yeah, give this video a thumbs up, share with your friends, subscribe if you haven't already, and peace out, everyone. See you next time. Goodbye for now.